All right, guys, welcome in. It is time to look ahead once again. Week 10 of the NFL regular season. He is Teddy Covers. I'm Joe Raineri, WagerTalk.com. SportsMemo.com is where you can find us. We got to look back first a little bit in order to figure out exactly where we might be heading here in Week 10, Teddy. But Week 9, couple of days away, going to be a very interesting week from a lot of perspectives because when you get this late in this season, Teddy, from a handicapping perspective, you are what your record says you are. Is that fair enough to say?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
incorrect.
Okay.
I couldn't disagree stronger.
Okay.
All right. You are what your power rating says you are. And your record and your power rating are not necessarily correlated in any way, shape, or form. Bears have a good record. They're not a good team. Chargers have a bad record. They're power rated right there with the Bears. Right. I think I've got Chargers. I've got the Chargers a point ahead of the Bears. And the Chargers are 3 games worse in the standings?
Right.
So your power rating number is who you are. And we can expect teams that are 2-6 at the halfway point. Some of them are going to go 6-2 down the stretch. Teams that are 6-2 at the halfway point. Some of them are going to go 2-6 down the stretch. So at this stage of the season, if you're thinking you are what your record says you are, well, there might be money to be made betting against some of your selections because teams can and will morph. Teams are not static. And that's a big part of this process that we do with the look-ahead lines. It's talking about, of course, we're talking about lines for games for next week when this week's games haven't even been played yet.
Right.
And the concept here is all we want to do is where can we find 2 bets to make? You bet this team this week, you bet that team another week. You bet against this team here, you bet against this team there. What correlations can we find between opinions that we have this week and what we expect to see from the lines next week? And of course, you always want to be careful around those key numbers in the NFL, the 3s and the 7s, when we see those look-ahead lines in those ranges. If we think the market's going to move, we want to jump on it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and big example out over the last couple of weeks, guys. We've seen some games where we scratched our head a little bit. Baltimore, Pittsburgh comes to mind a couple of weeks ago when that opened up at 6. And then, of course, we saw what happens there. Interesting week this week. You and I talked last week on the look ahead about Washington and the New York Giants. That number was 3.5 last week, the look ahead line. We both kind of scratched our heads a little bit. That game's still to be played, of course, this weekend. And then when you start, even on Thursday night, next Thursday night, Teddy, when you're looking at 2 teams, the Colts and the Titans, it's going to be at Tennessee. And we're looking ahead here. Tennessee laying 2 against a Colts team. Big game this week for the Colts. A lot of people feel they might be a live dog against the Ravens there. But Tennessee, it was bound to come crashing. You can't score at a 70% clip every time you're in the red. There were a lot of things that were going to eventually come back to the middle with Tennessee. But they're a favorite against this Colts team. What says you and your power rating?
Well, Tennessee scored 3 touchdowns and 4 red zone tries last week, but the 1 interception really hurt them. It was essentially the difference in the game. They had the missed field goal and the interception in the first half, and that was the difference in the final score against it. Everyone's like, oh, Tennessee got blown out. No, they didn't. They moved the ball up and down the field in that game.
Right.
But they had a couple of good drives that didn't result in points, and their defense did not play well. So I've got Tennessee and Indy power rated as 2 even teams, the exact same number. So
about the same
whatever
thing.
you're using for home field, right now I'm using 1 in the NFL for home field. So my number for this game would be 1 as opposed to 2. All that said, we have Tennessee at home as favorites this week against Chicago. They're supposed to win that game. Whereas Indy's a dog against Baltimore this week. If you like the Colts to beat the Ravens, Indy will get a boost from that. They'll get a market boost. The markets will be excited about Indy. And I would anticipate that instead of Tennessee laying 2, if Indy wins this week, regardless of what Tennessee does, I would think that number would come with shorter, maybe even pick them.
Interesting, yeah, and that'll be interesting, too. We've heard the stat, and I don't remember it off the top of my head, Teddy. Maybe you heard about it, though. I believe teams the week after playing Pittsburgh, it usually hasn't favored very well because we knew that was going to be a war last week, and it's going to be interesting to see what Baltimore has in the tank this weekend against this Indy team. because as we look ahead, it's going to be a very interesting AFC matchup there with implications as we move along through the season. The Bengals, the team that actually beat the Tennessee Titans, they are going to, that team we just mentioned, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cincinnati, maybe not exactly what your record says you are. Well, they're going to be getting double digits, 10 in Pittsburgh on the look ahead there for week number 10 in the NFL. What do you got the Steelers at?
And that's a little bit higher than my number. Again, you have a choice. The home field is not a pure thing this year.
Right.
You can use 1.5, 2. But I have 7.5 points difference on a neutral field between these two squads. So with Pittsburgh at home, that puts it in the range of 8.5, 9, 9.5, which isn't far off the number by any stretch of the imagination. What about the division
aspect of it, Teddy? Being in the same division, playing each other twice a year, is it how much credence do you give that?
The markets don't care.
Right.
The markets are power rating team A, power rating team B. And when we're trying to project where this line might move between now and kickoff, or actually not even between now and kickoff, between now and when the official openers for this week come out after the games on Sunday, that's where, in terms of the breakdown of the analysis, that's where my focus is for this. So, when we look at Pittsburgh this week, and they're playing the Cowboys, and it's a national TV game. It's the afternoon game,
right?
And Pittsburgh could win that game by 100. I mean, obviously I'm exaggerating, but Pittsburgh could. Yeah. If Pittsburgh wins that game by however much they want to win that, if they win it by going away and it's the national TV game, the number's not coming less than 10. But if the Steelers are, they don't necessarily bring their A game in this time around, and it is a Bengals team that'll be coming off a bye. Next week. So, I mean, there's a chance it could come shorter, but, like I said, my powering number is a little bit shorter, but nothing significant to say, you got to run out and bet this right now.
Right. Well, it's certainly worth keeping an eye on, guys, depending on what happens to Pittsburgh. And again, that game against the Ravens usually takes a lot out of both of those teams. So it'll be interesting to watch. How about them Washington, that team in Washington, traveling to Detroit, who, wow, what a shock. Matt Patricia in Detroit can't win a game that they need to win or should win for that matter. But we've already heard about some COVID issues with Detroit. This game listed as Detroit laying 4 at home against that Washington football team. How do you have it rated?
So my pure from powering differential is 3 points. You factor in the home field for Detroit, and it's right there, 4.5.
Okay.
We don't know yet what the story is with Stafford. Stafford was put on the COVID reserve list today. There's a chance he can still play on Sunday. There's a chance that he won't go near the field on Sunday and won't be on the field next week either. And that would obviously have a pretty enormous impact on this point spread. You remember the Lions last year without Matthew Stafford. They did nothing in the offseason to solve their backup quarterback problem.
Nope.
And it's certainly a Washington team that, again, they won last week. They've got the Giants this week. You look at their upcoming schedule, Washington's live to make some noise.
Yep.
So, I don't know if they're good enough to make some noise, but they have the schedule to do it. I would think that this line's more likely to be shorter than 4 than above 4. I wouldn't argue with anyone that wants to take Washington plus the points. But, of course, if the Washington football team loses to the Giants,
right,
the number could easily be higher than 4.
Yep.
So it's one of those deals where, you might get an extra half point if you're making 2 bets on the Redskins or on the Washington football team or against the Washington football team. I got to put $1 in the swear jar now.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Every week I get one. But as long as I do it with Washington and the Chargers and the Raiders, then it's okay. But the bottom line is this line, again, the line is right, power rated right now, right where my number.
Right, yeah. Listen, it's interesting. They talked about trading Haskins. That doesn't look, that never came through there. It's a team that's taken on the personality of that head coach of theirs, and that defense is going to keep them in games no matter what the offense does. They're going to beat some teams that are equal or maybe not quite as good as them. That defense is going to be good for years to come.
It's worth noting that Ron Rivera has finished his chemo treatments now.
Yes. Yep.
And that I'm sure was a signal. I mean, he even said that it was significant in terms of what he was dealing with. So that perhaps a step in Washington's favor moving forward. But you talk about Haskins and how we didn't get traded and any of that. No, anything that you hear about, rumors, it means it's not going to happen.
Right, exactly.
The NFL trading deadline once again was a dud. I didn't see an impact player traded. I didn't see one impact player.
Nothing. Yes, nothing.
No
guys I didn't even know are in the league are switching teams. I'm like, this guy's still playing? Very strange. Welcome to the NFL. How about the Houston Texans, who are going to be traveling to the Cleveland Browns, who, and just what a game that was against the Raiders. Talk about watching paint dry there. Cleveland at home laying 2.5 against a Houston Texans team who had a bye last week. They're on it this week against Jacksonville. What do you have this rated as?
My number's a little higher.
Really?
I have 2.5 on a neutral field, which equates to 3.5, 4.
Right.
For Cleveland. Look, Cleveland's on bye this week. All they're going to do is get healthy.
Right.
If Houston blows out Jacksonville, we say, yeah, who cares? They're Jacksonville. They're not going to be a powering boost on the Texans. If they lose to the Jags, they're a 1-7 team. That's was trying to trade veterans at the deadline. And I would anticipate this number coming higher. So 2.5, that's one that stands out to me. Right. The first one here that stands out to me, I'm not convinced that'll be there next week. So fading the Texans. And again, it's not, backing the Browns off the bye at -2.5. That's one I'm interested in, Joe. I'm gonna investigate that.
There we go.
I want because again, we're also talking about by the key numbers, and there's no more key number in the NFL than 3. So you can lock in a 2.5 in a game that you think may come out 3.5.
Yes,
that's a positive expectation wager.
Love it. Also, the team that, of course, you somebody playing here week 9, and again, this is week 10, guys. It's the look ahead. Jacksonville traveling to Green Bay, 13.5 points at Lambeau is what they'll be giving the Jacksonville Jaguars, whose that defense is just what do you think here, though? Green Bay in a bounce back situation this week. Then all of a sudden now, of course, I think Thursday night against San Francisco. Then they got Jacksonville, possible letdown, too many points, too few. How do you have it rated?
So from a power rating standpoint, I have 11.5 points differential between these two teams. Traveling up to a Florida team, traveling up to Lambeau in November, you're going to give them at least 1.5 points. You might give them 2 there.
Okay.
So that puts us right at the number where it is right now. The Packers been real good. They're coming off a loss this week against the 49ers. And they've been great. They've been perfect off a loss in the Matt LaFleur era and covering spreads by double digits on average off a loss, assuming they get the national TV win over San Fran, and assuming, let's just say, the Jags lose by a TD to the Texans like they're supposed to at home this weekend.
Right.
This number could easily come 14.
Yes.
Wouldn't shock me at all if it came 2 touchdowns. But if let's say the 49ers run all over Green Bay and the Packers are now on a 2-game losing streak, and let's say Jacksonville wins straight up against Houston, I wouldn't be surprised at all. This number comes 10.5, 11, 11.5. I think it comes significantly, a good couple of points shorter. Whereas if the Packers look good and the Jags look bad this week, I'm not convinced that it comes a whole lot higher. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to phrase it this way because, guys, if you're just tuning in for the first time, this man over here to my left or right, can't even figure out which way he's angled right now on the TV. The man is not surprised about a damn thing, all right? Nothing surprises him. But if you were the general manager of the Green Bay Packers, would you have gone out and we talked about the trade deadline, no impact players. Would you have gone out and gotten Aaron Rodgers, maybe another receiver? Should they have done something if you were the Packers?
The Packers' problem in both their losses had nothing to do with their offense. That offense is clicking.
Yeah.
All right. And you're saying, hey, let's mortgage our future because to get a wide receiver? No. The mainstream media likes people whose names they know. And when you say, oh, it's Valdez Scantling, they're like, who's that guy? just because you don't. This makes me crazy. So it makes me crazier in the NBA because you're like, oh, so and so's out. Whoever the backup is can't play. You're like, guess what? The guy who never gets off the bench is the best basketball player you've ever freaking seen. And when given an opportunity, they can, for a game, and it may not be the same for a year, but in any game, anyone can be replaced. Anyone can be replaced. So I don't look at Green Bay as a team that they had to make a move. That's not the Packers' MO. And if they don't make the Super Bowl this year, it's not going to be because of the offense.
Fair enough. Yep, fair enough. Interesting, guys, next week, 13.5. Keep an eye on that game against Jacksonville. Keep an eye on this game, too, because somebody's got to win this division, the NFC least there, Teddy. The Philadelphia Eagles traveling to MetLife to take on the Giants, who were oh so close last week. And again, keep in mind, guys, this is week 10. So Giants at home getting 3.5 from a Philadelphia team that I don't. Somebody's going to win this. We talked about Washington, Philadelphia, even the Giants. What say you? Should the Giants be getting more than that key number at 3.5?
So, I mean, I've got the Eagles power rated 3.5 points better than the Giants on a neutral.
Okay. On a neutral.
Makes the number probably 2.5 here.
Yep.
So my number's a little bit shorter. And I've had my number short on Philly all year, and it's done well. It's proven. Even when they cover against Dallas, nothing the Eagles are doing is pretty right now.
No.
And the Giants certainly gave them a test last week, and the Giants gave the BUCS a test on Monday night.
Yep. So
it's the Giants team that, the market, and this week they play Washington. If they win that game, it'll come shorter.
It'll come low. That's
it'll
right.
Flat out come shorter. The markets, there's betting market interest in the Giants.
Yep.
We saw some last night. We saw some last week. I should say last night. A couple of nights ago on Monday Night Football.
Absolutely. Yep.
We saw some against Philadelphia in the first meeting. Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised if this number comes a little shorter than that. If you like the Giants at plus 3.5, I wouldn't argue about it. I wouldn't tell you not to bet it.
I agree. Especially at home too. Interesting. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, big game this week, trying to revenge a loss to the Saints. They'll have them here, but then next week they're going to travel to that pesky Carolina team. Panthers are going to be getting 6 at home from this Buccaneers team. A lot of people looking at the Panthers this week, too, against Kansas City, thinking maybe they can cover here. Which way do you think this number goes? What do you have it rated? And then if Carolina does give Kansas City a big fight, where do you see this going?
So I've got a 6-point differential on a neutral field.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Which makes the number here a little bit shorter than the market number now. Puts us in a 4.5 or 5 range.
Right.
It's not like any of these teams have huge home field advantages right now. Right. And the home fields that are worth more in November, December, the home fields that have cold weather. Especially when you have a warm weather team. This isn't that type of a circumstance. It is a divisional game for Tampa, but they are going to be coming off back-to-back huge games. And it could be, in theory, a letdown spot for them. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the markets react to this game like Tampa's not going to bring their A game.
Right.
That said, let's just say the Panthers go into Arrowhead and give the Chiefs a game, maybe even win. Are we going to see a huge market move towards Carolina? No. The markets are convinced that Carolina is mediocre at best. And lousy on a good day. Let's say Tampa plays a bad game this week, loses. Are the market's going to say, the Bucs are no good? No, they're going to say the Bucs are coming off a loss.
Revenge. Let's go. Bounce back.
So regardless of what happens this weekend, I don't see this line moving dramatically. It's not one of those games you got to bet it now because that number might be there if this and that happens. This is one of those. Doesn't matter what happens this week. The number's going to come in this range.
Good stuff, guys. How about the Denver Broncos? Big AFC West matchup here. Traveling to Las Vegas in your neck of the woods, Steady. They're coming to see you. Taking on them Raiders. Raiders have no problem giving them 4 points when they show up here. How close are these two teams together, do you think?
So my power rating right now has a 3.5-point differential on a neutral field. So you put the game at Allegiant Stadium here in Vegas, and we're talking about 4.5, 5.
Right.
Within the realm of where the markets are right now. If the Raiders win this week, there's going to be a little bit of if they beat the Chargers this week, there's going to be a little betting bandwagon. They beat Kansas City in Kansas City. They beat Cleveland in Cleveland. They beat LA in LA.
Yep.
There's going to be market support for the Raiders. And this week is that week. We're already seeing some of it for this week. We're seeing the Raiders get money against the Chargers. If they win, I would expect Vegas to be a popular team in the betting marketplace a week from now. If you like Oakland against the Chargers, might not hurt you to get involved. Oakland. There it is. Another dollar in the swear jar.
I was reaching for the bell. I was trying to get the button. Yes, there will be a bell next week on this show. We'll just be buzzing the crap out of each other is what's going to happen.
Ding. Ding.
How about you, though? I mean, listen, the team in your backyard, these Raiders here, Las Vegas Raiders, as a matter of fact, though, are you still 50-50 with them, or are you starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, they're the second best team in that division?
I've got them power rated a half point ahead of the Chargers.
Okay. A lot of people love them Chargers. Think that's interesting. Yep.
It's a Broncos team. Look, the quotes coming out of Denver are real positive. They started 0-3. Since then, they're 3-1. And if they go on the road and pull the upset this week, we're going to see some Denver. Because their defense, again, their defensive stats are impressive.
Yep.
Week in, week out. And the Broncos, I know they gave up 30 last week. But when you look at the broad, I mean, here, I got defensive numbers right here. When you look at the broad defensive
that's without
numbers.
Von Miller, which is impressive.
For Denver. Yeah, they're giving up 5.3 yards a play. That's better than league average. They're giving up opposing QB ratings at 91.6. That's better than league average.
Wow.
The defense has been solid.
Yeah. Vic Fangio.
And that's what we expect from Vic Fangio.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yep. Interesting. Big AFC West battle there coming up. And then here's another interesting one. The Buffalo Bills will be traveling, getting the hell out of Orchard Park and heading to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. The Cardinals, 2.5-point favorite here is what they're going to be looking at. 2.5. They'll be giving the Buffalo Bills and a sunburn. So where do you have these two teams rated? And it's so confusing with Buffalo. We know that. I think Arizona, we've got a pretty good idea of what they are and how they're going to win. But Buffalo, you just don't know what they're going to bring week to week.
So I've got these two teams power rated actually even.
Even. Okay.
Dead even right here. So that puts Arizona -1, -1.5. If Buffalo beats Seattle this week, I mean, the Bills haven't played a good game since they had that one Tuesday night affair against Tennessee.
Correct.
And you look at Buffalo before that game, and they got all out of sync and out of the rhythm, and they haven't been a great team since. That said, they were good enough to beat the Patriots have been their bugaboo, and they were good enough to beat them last week. But defensively, the Bills certainly have had more than their fair share of issues. Last week, against a team that couldn't throw the football at all downfield, the Bills were still gashed on the ground. So that said, Arizona this week plays Miami.
Yep.
If they win, they're not going to get a ton of credit for beating Tua in his first road start.
Right.
If they lose, I don't think the markets are going to crash on Arizona off a loss like that. So I don't see the Arizona side of the equation moving the needle on this one as much as the other side, for whatever that's worth.
Or Bob, good point. You got them equal there. How about Seattle? The team you mentioned is taking on Buffalo this week, week 9. We're talking about week 10. Seattle heading on the road a little further south, taking on the LA Rams. And the Rams are 2-point favorites here. They're going to actually give Seattle points here in this spot, while Seattle's on its way to Buffalo this week, giving Buffalo points in their own building. Well, the Rams are giving them right back to the Seahawks at 2. Where do you have it rated?
So I've got the Seahawks a half-point better on a neutral.
Almost.
But let's not forget the situation here. Mm-hmm. It's going to be Seattle off another trip back east, early start game east, and then back, and then another trip back west.
Yep.
And it's LA coming off a loss and a bye. So those circumstances alone merit LA -2, LA -2.5. If Seattle beats Buffalo, they're not going to get a ton of credit for it. If they lose to Buffalo, the markets aren't going to crash on them. This is a line that's not likely to move a whole lot between now and when the openers truly come out for Week 10 on Sunday night.
Ugly ass loss too for the Rams. Got to marinate on it for an extra week. Too,
No, that was a beautiful, beautiful loss for the Rams. Ugly ass loss. That was.
Sorry.
It was poetry. Was that game?
Yes, it certainly. So was the ticket cashing it. It was wonderful. Way to go, Miami. How about the 49ers? They're going to be traveling to, this is interesting, New Orleans. And New Orleans at home, almost a touchdown, 6.5 points. Big games for both of these teams this week. San Francisco, short week, Thursday night against Green Bay. And, of course, New Orleans taking on Tampa, who they beat the first game, Tom Brady's first game early in the season. But depending on what happens with these two teams this week, 6.5 is the number. How do you have it rated?
So I've been off market on the 49ers basically all year.
Yep.
I've had them downgraded more than the markets do. And yet, right now, I don't know that I've downgraded as much as the markets have. You know, the markets finally crashed on San Fran this week.
Right.
In a way that they haven't with all the injuries. I mean, for as bad as the Eagles injury report is, or the Cowboys, or some of these teams, I don't know that anyone has a worse injury report than San Francisco.
Yeah.
You know, they have, and I'll give Shanahan a world of credit because even with the injuries, they played well.
Yeah.
You know, it's not last week, notwithstanding, they did not have a good game, but even that game they were dead in the water. Mullins comes in, touchdown. All of a sudden, you're sweating, you know, if you had a Seattle ticket. But like I said, so my priority number differential is only 4, and then you factor in a home field, that comes what, 5.5?
Yep.
My number's a little bit shorter. But if the 49ers get wiped out by the Packers on Thursday night or non-competitive in defeat, the markets are going to crash even more on that team.
Yep.
So if you're betting the Packers on Thursday, you may want to make 2 bets to bet against the Niners again next week.
You better bet the Saints. That's because that number ain't going to be under a touchdown. That's for sure. If that's how it happens, no matter what happens,
especially if the Saints win.
Oh, if the Saints,
I mean, if the Saints look good against Tampa, and that's the Sunday night TV game.
Yep.
And if the Saints come out and look good, that number's a touchdown, more than a touchdown. I wouldn't be surprised at all. If the Saints look bad, I don't think the market crashes on New Orleans.
Be interesting to see what happens. New Orleans is just a team in itself. This is a big game this weekend, Sunday night for them. Sure. How about them Ravens? This is going to be fun too. Ravens heading to Gillette, taking on the Patriots. And they're also going to be bringing just under a touchdown with them. 6.5 points. They'll be given New England in this matchup here. Patriots at home getting points. When was the last year? Who was president? Give me some clues here, Teddy. When was the last time that happened in New England?
Yeah, I got to look it up. You know, I can try to flip through it here. I got a book with 10 years of results right here.
That's just crazy.
I don't know if I'm going to find one in that game. Patriots and so
Ravens, yeah.
So my number is 8 on a neutral.
8 on a neutral.
Which is New England, plus 6.5, plus 7 at home.
Yeah, right about there. You got it.
The Patriots are going to be coming off Monday Night Football against the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
If the Patriots lose that game, you think the market's crashed on New England now?
Whew.
If the Patriots lose on Monday night, Baltimore will be laying 10.
Yep.
Or who knows what Baltimore will be laying.
Yep.
Even if the Ravens lose at Indy.
That's correct.
But if New England destroys the Jets on Monday night, I think the number comes less than a touchdown. So I would expect New England's performance to have a bigger impact on this line than anything else. Like I said, I've got the Ravens 8-point better on a neutral field.
Yeah, I don't see anything happen to the Ravens one way or the other. We mentioned the Chargers earlier. They're going to be heading to my neck of the woods here in Miami, taking on the Dolphins. Chargers getting 1.5 here in Miami. Tua versus Herbert, a couple of first-rounders there. The future of these organizations, these teams hope. Interesting enough. What do you think? Miami, 1.5 better?
I've got Miami a half-point better on a neutral, so that puts them 1.5 or 2 better here. And again, if the Dolphins win in Arizona this week,
on the right,
coming off the win over LA, coming off the win over San Fran, there's going to be a betting bandwagon on Miami. And this number is going to be, Miami's going to get a fair bit of support. So that's definitely something to be aware of. If you like the Dolphins this week, you might want to make 2 bets on this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
In favor of Miami.
Yep. I can't listen. That's the future of both those organizations. Going to be fun. Herbert versus Tua. It's going to be interesting to watch. That's for sure. They're excited here in Miami for this team, even if Fitzpatrick's just sitting on the sidelines. A lot of Fitzpatrick love down here, too. They love that guy. Well, who doesn't? It's hard not to like the guy. That's the problem. But he's always been a consummate professional and a great teammate. So Miami, 1.5, leading us into Monday night, which is, I don't know. I don't know if Dalvin Cook can repeat the performance here every week like he had last week against Green Bay, but he's taking on a slightly better defense than the Chicago Bears in Chicago, and Chicago's laying 2 against the Minnesota Vikings here. How do you got it rated, Eddie?
I've got these teams powered equally.
Fair enough.
So, again, you have the Bears with the winning record. The Vikings is another example of your record is not who you are.
Yeah.
Your power rating number is who you are.
Interesting.
So that makes Chicago a point and a half better. I'm not surprised the markets are a little bit higher than that. And, if Minnesota takes care of business against Detroit this week,
right,
and Chicago loses as an underdog this week, I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings are favored in this game or pick them.
Right.
It's not one that stands out to me. Those are ifs.
Right.
On the other hand, if the Vikings lose at home to the Lions, or if the Bears go on the road and knock off Tennessee,
right,
it could easily be a 3 on this game. So it's not one that you're like, oh, I got to bet it. The line can only move one way. This is one that could go either way depending on this week's results. It really could.
Falcons, Cowboys, Chiefs, Jets, finally, thank God. Maybe they can take the rest of the season as a bye there. They'll be off week 10, guys, but the one game I think fair enough to say that really stood out to us here was the Cleveland game. Houston taking to Cleveland, currently at 2.5 Cleveland. There could be some value there on hopping on this game sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, look, one thing I'm never trying to do with it, we got to find something.
No.
If we see something,
right,
we're gonna mention it. That's the one, last week, but and every week we've had at least one game of like, that line doesn't look that. And this week, that's the line to me. It looks short on Cleveland. The look ahead at 2.5 to me looks short in that game.
Yep.
I would not be surprised.
Absolutely. If you're betting one team this week, probably a good idea to hop on. There could be some line movement in a couple of these other games too as well. There'll definitely be movement, guys. Head over to sportsmemo.com. Make sure you visit Teddy's page. Drop by, say hello, give the finger, whatever it is. He's there. He's there for you guys. Plays will be up heading into the weekend there. It's an exciting weekend of football. We had MAC action this week, right? Pac-12. It's a loaded card here from a football standpoint this week, Teddy.
Yeah, all of a sudden, it's like I kind of like the way this football season has flowed in the sense of, college, you kind of eased into college football.
Yep.
And the NFL is what it is. So right now, November is going to be as busy as it gets.
That's right.
For football, college and the NFL. And the fact that we're doing what are we doing? A $199 special?
Yep. That's right.
For all football plays in the NFL. If you're interested. And I always tell people, don't buy any of my plays. Don't. Right. It's stupid. Buy a package. If you want to see what I can do, get a package. And for $199, you get every football play for the entire month of November. No promo code, no anything. Just check out the website at WagerTalk or SportsMemo.com.
Right. Go check them out. And make sure while you're here, guys, watching us anyway, make sure you hit the thumbs up. And make sure you subscribe to us here on the Wager Talk page here on YouTube. Come back and join us again next week when we look ahead now to week 11 in the NFL season. Hard to believe that we're at week 11, but he is Teddy Covers. I'm Joe Raineri. Guys, best of luck with your plays this week, and then come back and join us again next week. It is time to look ahead once again. Good luck, guys. We'll talk again next week.